is still attainable today's younger generation? I believe no, because nobody in our generation is actually getting the same privileges as they did like a couple of years ago, because they're like canceling some of the help towards some people that are immigrants, not just Hispanics, but other cultures, ethnicities like from, let's take example like Iran and Iraq. They're having the wars over there and they still don't have like the same opportunity as some people that do have the right, like they were born and have some opportunity for the American dream. And I got this annotated from the second one, the New Deal and civil rights helped make the dream more attainable. And it stated that Americans are right to believe the American dream is fading, and I agree with that.
I wanted to make the comment that off of Elizabeth, what she said, that I want to believe that the American dream is not completely unattainable, but it's getting extremely hard and harder over the years as time goes on, because it goes off of one of these things. The American dream is more common in movies and reality nowadays because, well, if you think about it, the American dream, one of the aspects of it is to be able to obtain a education. That way you can work your way to where you want to be in life. But with today's society, college price has been raised exponentially to the point from like where it could be maybe $500 for tuition to over $5,000 for tuition. So education is becoming less available to a lot of people, mostly immigrants, because those people who just come into the country with not very much stuff end up having to scrounge and will probably not even be able to have a chance to get to college till at least 2 or 3 more generations later.
So I kind of agree with what they said. I do think it's attainable in today's younger generation. What Elizabeth said, it is true that it's harder because we're starting to get some of our, not rights, but some of the stuff that students could get, like in order like to get a scholarship or something if you're an immigrant, for example. But I think that our younger generation is fighting back when it comes to our stuff that's getting taken away, like rights and just laws, anything. We're starting to fight back, we're starting to protest more, we're starting to do more things as to we can prosper more, we're starting to work harder to get more things. I mean, some people in our younger generation are just lazy and just want to go down one path, like the same path as everybody else's, but then the majority of us is fighting back and going down the other path to reach what they want, because the American dream means more than becoming rich, which is what I highlighted in this article. The American dream differs for each person, and it's not just about getting education and becoming rich and moving to a better place. It could be anything, and it differs for every person.
So going off what Sarah said, I agree. Like, we are like learning how to, we like know what to avoid now because we hear about politics all the time. Now it's pretty much like half of what I hear on a daily, and we know like how to like avoid things to like we know how to avoid the problems because we can think about how to avoid them, and so it would make it easier for us to succeed in life once we know how to avoid the problems that we are going through now. Like once we're older in a few years, we'll be in college and we will be working towards an education that will get us a job that we want to have like pretty much for the rest of our life until we retire. And to be successful, we will know what to do to succeed, and if we avoid some of the mistakes that we made, not we personally, like America in general in the past, we will know like how to succeed better in a sense.
Well, in essence of what Isaac over there said, he was saying as in the American dream is obtainable, but is extremely difficult in the sense of mostly minorities, especially having it hard for them to achieve the American dream. And we, as Sarah said and Sydney, they were saying that there has been students' knowledge of politics and how to clear up these blocks of fighting for the American dream, like including laws and trying to have these organizations to help provide more financial stability for taking these minorities to college. But in the Lester Spence article here, it says that Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech, and it's showing that it's under siege also because there's still a wealth gap between blacks and whites, so which means that blacks would have a harder time in achieving the American dream and what they want to do in life.
Going off of sort of what Isaac said. So, the dream, the American dream is attainable. It's just, it's the vision of it that people think it's not. People don't think it's actually. They think it's all about having money and everything. They don't actually realize it's about being happy with what you have and trying to get a stable, balanced, just household to support yourself, support your family, like it said in the New Deal and Civil Rights. It said that competency was what the American dream was, to sustain their family. And people don't realize it. They just think it's all about money, and they don't realize that if they just actually worked for it and they actually tried to get an education despite sacrifices, that's what you need, because there's no patience in today's generation, and that's why it's harder for us to attain it.
I agree with what John was saying about there's no patience, and how the American dream isn't something that's just handed. And I feel like the youth now feels like everything is going to be handed to them. And it's like, I know with me in some situations, I'm like, okay, Mom, I'm getting a new pair of shoes for school, right? And it's like, I expect it. And I feel like when we go into the real world, we are expecting, oh, we're just going to make money, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, without putting forth the work or the sacrifice that, say, a Latino family would have to do, like in the movie Real Women Have Curves, how she had to make sacrifices and for her family and for her to go to college. And I don't think the American kids today see that. I don't think that they mentally think about it and comprehend, hey, there are sacrifices you have to do. You can't just get, hey, oh, I'm going to go into the college for free. No, you have to work for it. Oh, I'm going to get this job, I'm going to be a doctor. You have to work for it. Everything is not handed to you. So, and I think that's what our generation fails to understand sometimes. So it is harder to obtain the American dream, because as soon as they get out of high school, they're hit with reality, and then they don't know what to do because they weren't taught, or not taught, they didn't learn sacrifices, or they didn't have to make sacrifices as an American child.
Kind of building off what Dakota and John were saying, in the numbers show rags to riches happens only in movies. In this article, it says, your place on the ladder as a child can often be a predictor of your place as an adult. And this means that if you are born in like a lower class family, it's saying that you are probably going to be in the lower class, like throughout the rest of your life. And I kind of agree, but I kind of don't agree with that, because people who are born in like the lower class have a bigger strive to like be better, so that if you are born into like a lower class, like on the bottom of the ladder, you have a stronger strive to be on the top of the ladder. And also, if you're like born into like a high class family, you're kind of just going to expect things like what Dakota said, the things to be like given to you, and expect mommy and daddy to pay for your car, your college, your first apartment, all that stuff. And I feel like once they realize that that's probably not going to happen for them, that's probably going to make them like realize, oh wait, I actually have to work, and it could be too late for them. Not like too late to where they're going to have a horrible life, but too late to where their life is going to be set back a little bit because they realize that they have to put in the work. And if they didn't realize that earlier, like if they realized they had to do it in middle school and high school, they would have had like more time to work hard. But since they're just now realizing this getting out of high school, they would probably not have the same success as someone who had a bigger strive for that goal.
Kind of contrasting to what you said about kids who are lower class per se when they're born and they're like, oh, okay, I gotta work harder. In some cases, in some minorities, it's not of, oh, working hard. It's more of what they're taught to do. Because you're raised how you're raised. And say you have this kid that was that was being raised in the hood, and they're around a whole bunch of thugs, and they're not taught to, they're taught to survive. That's their only thing. Their goal is to survive. They're not thinking about getting out of the hood. They're not thinking about college. They're not thinking about doing something with their life. They'll think about doing something, but 9 times out of 10, and I know this is stereotype, they're like, oh, I'm gonna be a rapper. And everybody sees it. It's not necessarily of what they want to do, it's what you're taught. Because when you're a child, and we all have seen this in all of our classes, children are the most manipulative people that you could manipulate. Like, if you find a younger child, they're gonna start following you. It's like the mama duck and her baby's following her. It's not necessarily, oh, I want to do this. It's what you're taught. And then when you take with what you're taught, like if you say with religion, you're going to take whatever you worship with, like say it's the Bible, the Quran, and you're going to interpret it and take it to yourself. So it's more of a, okay, my mom taught me not to steal and do drugs. So I'm going to say, okay, I'm not going to steal, I'm not going to do drugs, and I'm going to take that into my life. It's basically, it's more of what you're taught. So someone who wants to get out of the hood or get out of a situation that they're in, it's not necessarily what they want, it's what's implanted into them and what they decide that they're going to do at the end of the day. Because not everyone wants to get out of the situation that they're in. Like a rich kid, if they were rich and they were growing up in the high end, they may not want to get out of that. And there's some kids that do get everything handed to them and they don't get a wake-up call because they're rich. So it's not necessarily because what you want to do, it's it's implanted in you, and then you decide what you're going to do at the end of the day. Like it's not oh, I want to do this as soon as I know that I'm in poverty. No, it's what you're taught and what you learn. So really it depends on everyone that's around you.